Arthur had once been a straight-up menace to the entire world. A ruthless king who didn't just win wars, he erased people, burned cities like they were trash, and committed enough crimes to make villains look like saints, all just to sit on top of the food chain. But one day, reality finally hit him like a truck, and he started reflecting on all the messed up things he had done. And just when guilt started eating him alive, mysterious illness shows up like karma. Personally came to collect its debt, and as he slowly faded into darkness, a voice popped up offering him a second chance while basically warning him not to screw it up again. And just like that, Arthur woke up, lying there staring at two random adults who were way too happy for someone who just gave birth to a future war criminal. And those two turned out to be Reynolds and Alice, his new parents, who had no clue their newborn was actually a retired world destroyer trapped in a tiny, useless body. And while they were busy being loving parents, Arthur was having an existential crisis because imagine ruling the world one day and the next day, you can't even control your own bladder. Man had a big head, couldn't talk, and kept dropping biological disasters in his diaper every few hours. Talk about a downgrade. But just when he thought things couldn't get weirder, he saw his dad casually punch a massive boulder into pieces like it owed him money. And Arthur was like, hold up, even in his previous life, he hadn't seen power like this. Meanwhile, Reynolds was feeling himself after that little flex, expecting applause like he just performed a magic trick, but instead got humbled real quick, and Alice, already used to her husband's low IQ moments, rushed in and healed him with magic while scolding him like a child for being reckless. And just like that, Arthur realized two important things. First, this world is dangerous as hell where people casually walk around armed. And second, if he wanted freedom here, he better learn how to fight or he was done for. Arthur Loki enjoyed one thing: sleep. Because in his past life, sleeping was basically playing Russian roulette with assassins. So now at least he could nap without someone trying to stab him every 5 minutes. And as months passed, his body finally upgraded from useless potato to slightly mobile potato, so his first move was to waddle to a mirror and stare at himself while his parents thought it was adorable. But in reality, he was just processing the fact that he got nerfed into a baby. And the moment he gained mobility, this guy wasted no time and started plotting like a tiny criminal, waiting for Alice to leave before escaping his crib like a stealth mission, crawling across the floor while his mom was too busy with dishes to notice her baby was basically running a prison break. And once he reached the library, he grabbed books and started grinding knowledge like his life depended on it, which it kinda did. Learning about the continent called Decathan and its 3 kingdoms, dwarves underground, elves in forests, and humans chilling without nuking cities like he used to. Yeah, big improvement. People here used mana instead of science with 2 main styles: augmentation for buffing your body and conjuring for controlling elements, basically strength build versus mage build. And Arthur instantly understood it because it worked just like the energy from his past life. So this dude didn't waste time and started experimenting, focusing hard, until boom, he actually formed a mana core as a baby, something most people only do after hitting puberty. This kid was already breaking the system, but before he could celebrate, Alice caught him. He's panicking because her baby disappeared, only to realize nothing was wrong except he had once again committed diaper crimes. Some things never change. Fast forward 2 years and Alice started getting worried because Arthur never smiled. But then she sees Reynolds out there, teaching a 2-year-old sword fighting like it's normal parenting, and she instantly goes into angry mom mode because letting a toddler swing a stick like a weapon is peak bad decision making. And Arthur quickly realized one thing: never mess with mom, unless you want problems, so he behaved. Then came a trip to town where Arthur gathered more intel, checking weapons, observing materials, and witnessing actual magic being cast, which for him was basically jackpot information. But by the end of the day, his baby body was completely drained, proving that even if your mind is OP, your body can still betray you. And despite all the limitations, Arthur slowly started enjoying this life because unlike his past where he grew up alone in an orphanage, now he had parents who actually cared about him, which was something he never had before. And as Alice carried him to bed, she talked about how proud she was, even mentioning how she noticed his secret midnight reading sessions. Moms always know, and she believed he had an adventurous spirit just like Reynolds and was ready to support him no matter what. And the next day, Arthur watched his dad train again, this time using mana to lift rocks, acting like it was some god-level performance when in reality it was kinda mid. And while watching this, Arthur got motivated to train too, but of course, Mom said nope, and since he couldn't talk, he used his ultimate weapon. A move so broken it forced Alice to give in. Honestly, this kid already mastered manipulation at age 2, and once alone, he started serious training, refining his mana core until he was ready to cast a spell. But then he messed up the calculation and accidentally blew up the entire house like a mini terrorist. Yeah, great job, genius. His parents survived, but Reynolds got cooked on the back, and when they realized Arthur was inside, they rushed in, expecting the worst, only to find this little monster standing there unharmed, like he didn't just commit property destruction, and before he could even process his victory, the house started collapsing, and his tiny legs failed him like usual. But his parents instantly jumped in, and for the first time in his life, Arthur experienced someone risking their life for him, something his old self would never understand. And seeing Alice cry made him cry too. Because this time, he wasn't a king, he was just a kid who finally had people who cared. But yeah, don't get it twisted. In his past life, he would have executed someone begging for mercy without blinking. So this emotional development was hitting hard. And as time passed, Arthur trained with Reynolds, refusing to switch from swords, even when suggested gauntlets, and when Reynolds tried to show off by enhancing his sword with mana, Arthur casually copied him and sliced it in half like it was butter, leaving his dad questioning his entire existence, realizing he was way out of his league, and suggesting getting a real teacher. But Alice instantly shut that idea down because she wasn't about to send her baby away, leading to a full-on couple argument until Arthur stepped in with the most logical solution. Just take him along, problem solved. And both parents sat there like, wow, why didn't we think of that? And immediately started preparing for the trip. And the next day, they met the Twin Horns, their old squad, where introductions quickly turned into chaos as Angela almost suffocated Arthur with a hug. Like, relax, lady. He's a child, not a stress ball. Thankfully, Durden saved him. Jasmine stood there acting mysterious, and Helen completed the team, and just like that, the journey began. And while everyone was excited, Arthur couldn't help but roast this world in his head, because going from flying ships to horse carts felt like going from luxury to poverty real quick. After a long day of riding like medieval peasants instead of using actual technology, the group finally stopped to rest and set up camp. But of course, peace lasted about 2 seconds before a pack of wolves showed up like uninvited guests, ready to ruin dinner. Charging in like brainless idiots only to get absolutely folded by the adventurers in seconds? Seriously, those wolves picked the wrong squad and got turned into tonight's barbecue. And Arthur watched the whole thing like a kid seeing real action for the first time. And since free meat was now available, the group cooked it up, though without spices, it was basically sad caveman food. Meanwhile, Alice noticed Reynolds had a small injury and was about to heal him, but Jasmine immediately stopped her, and the whole squad formed a protective circle like Secret Service, because apparently healers like Alice were rare enough to get kidnapped or killed if exposed. Yeah, this world really said protect your healer, or you're done. After that, things calmed down until Adam decided he wasn't sleepy yet and wanted to test Arthur's strength. Basically a grown man challenging a toddler because he heard rumors and couldn't mind his business. So he powered up his spear while Arthur casually matched him. And the moment the fight started, Arthur boosted his legs with magic and vanished, reappearing behind Adam like a mini assassin. But his tiny, useless legs betrayed him, and he slipped like an idiot, completely wasting the perfect attack window, giving Adam time to recover. Thankfully, the others caught him before he got turned into a pancake and immediately started roasting Adam for almost injuring a child. But Adam defended himself, saying he couldn't hold back because Arthur was ridiculously strong. And right then, Jasmine walked up, scaring Arthur out of nowhere like a silent assassin, asking him to teach her that speed trick, and Arthur already knew this was going to be annoying, because she clearly wasn't taking no for an answer, her eyes basically screaming, so he mentally accepted his fate, and the next day the journey continued with breaks, where Adam and Helen gave Arthur basic lessons in spear and archery, and this guy picked it up almost instantly because of his past life experience, showing once again he was low-key broken. So impressed by the benefits, he finally taught Jasmine his technique, which involved boosting speed with mana and wind magic, and she copied it perfectly after one try like a cheat code user. And from that point on, she started sticking around Arthur way too much, always sitting near him, watching him, basically acting like a quiet stalker but make it romantic. And the next morning, she even gave him a knife as thanks, which made it painfully obvious she had feelings for him. Yeah, congratulations, Arthur. You pulled someone while still being a toddler. What a legend. But the peaceful journey didn't last long because suddenly, bandits attacked the carriage, surrounding them completely like hungry vultures. And the leader straight up ordered his men to capture the women and kids to sell into slavery. Yeah, these guys were pure garbage. And the fight broke out instantly, with the Twin Horns and Reynolds being stronger individually but completely outnumbered, meaning it was only a matter of time before things went bad. And sure enough, the leader slammed Reynolds into the carriage, leaving him badly injured. And when Alice tried to heal him, he stopped her, thus warning that exposing her powers would make her a target. Instead, he told Arthur to take Alice and run. And Arthur hesitated because leaving his father behind felt wrong. But then Reynolds dropped the bomb that Alice was pregnant, instantly shifting priorities because now it wasn't just about survival, it was about protecting his future sibling too. So Arthur locked in and prepared to escape, while Reynolds stayed behind ready to throw hands like a real dad. And as the leader sent men after them, Reynolds intercepted him, fighting harder than ever because this time it wasn't just about himself, while Adam and Jasmine cleared a path for Arthur by taking out incoming bandits. And the irony hit hard because the same guy who once took everything without caring was now running just to protect someone he loved. But just when he thought they were safe, plot twist, a mage bandit appeared above them and launched a wind attack, and Arthur barely reacted in time, pushing Alice away and taking the full hit himself, getting blasted off a cliff like his life was a joke. But even then, he refused to go out alone, throwing Jasmine's knife and dragging the bandit down with him like a final screw you. And while the others tried to save him, it was too late. Arthur fell too far and was basically done. And as he dropped toward death, he reflected on everything, realizing he finally understood why people fought to protect their loved ones. And even though he didn't regret saving his family, well, part of him wished he had more time with them. But somehow this guy survived the fall, dragged himself out of a river, and stumbled into a cave only to immediately regret it because a terrifying monster was staring at him and thinking he still had options. Arthur tried to attack first, only to get swatted like a fly while the creature casually told him to chill and claimed it wanted to be friends, which sounded like the biggest lie ever. But since Arthur was injured and starving, the creature offered him fruits growing on the cave walls. And at first he didn't trust it because who eats random wall fruit? But after realizing he had no choice, he tried them and they were actually good. After which the creature finally showed him his parents using some long-distance vision ability, revealing they survived and defeated the bandits. Instantly giving Arthur peace of mind and realizing he wasn't dying anytime soon, he decided to cooperate with the creature, who turned out to be named Sylvia and surprisingly kind. And over the next few days, she stayed by his side while he healed, and once he recovered, he wanted to leave immediately. But Sylvia shut that idea down, explaining he would get destroyed instantly outside because the forest was full of dangerous beasts and bandits. But she offered a solution, a dimensional rift that could send him somewhere safe, though it would take time. So until then, Arthur had no choice but to stay and train. And while practicing sword swings and mana control, Sylvia noticed his insane talent and decided to show him a higher level technique, gathering mana externally in a way Arthur had never seen before. And he instantly realized mastering this would make him ridiculously powerful. But before teaching him, Sylvia asked what he would use that power for, and Arthur gave the most aggressive answer possible, saying he would destroy anyone who threatened his family, which earned him a flick to the forehead so hard it humbled him instantly, because Sylvia wasn't about that mindset, explaining that living with hatred would only trap him in an endless cycle. And after forcing him to rethink his answer, Arthur finally said he wanted to use his power to protect those he cared about, which satisfied her. And as she began training him properly, danger was already approaching outside because another creature like Sylvia was tracking her down. And back in Arthur's old life, he remembered how he wasn't truly free, just a weapon controlled by powerful figures, something he never wanted again. And now in the present, Sylvia guided him step by step as he learned to gather and use mana more efficiently, boosting his strength instantly. But just as he got excited, Sylvia sensed the enemy and immediately hit him. And when Arthur peeked out, he saw another monster identical to her, demanding she return. But Sylvia refused without hesitation, leading to an all-out battle. And when things escalated, she revealed her true form, a dragon, instantly turning the fight into something insane, unleashing massive attacks while her opponent warned she would die using that power in her weakened state. But she didn't care and kept fighting, taking heavy damage while prioritizing Arthur's safety. And when a final attack threatened to hit him, she used all her remaining power to stop time itself, calling Arthur out of hiding because there was no time left and she needed to get him out before everything fell apart. Sylvia forced open the dimensional rift she had been preparing, but because she was injured and rushed the casting like someone trying to submit homework at the last second, the portal came out completely scuffed, not leading to Arthur's home, but instead opening into some random unknown void. And even though she had tried to avoid sending him into danger, she had no choice now. Still, she wasn't too worried because she believed Arthur could survive and find his way back using everything she taught him. And before sending him off, she asked one last time what he planned to do with his power, and Arthur answered instantly that he would only use it to protect his family, finally giving her peace of mind that he wouldn't turn into another power-hungry idiot. And then she created an egg and a feather out of nowhere and told him to wrap the egg with the feather and protect it carefully. And as a final move, she marked his arm with her will, leaving Arthur confused as hell because she didn't even bother explaining it properly, basically hitting him with a "trust me bro, you'll figure it out later." And then she dropped an emotional bomb admitting she could have sent him home from the beginning but didn't because she enjoyed his company too much, meaning her selfishness low-key put him in danger. which hit Arthur hard because despite everything, he still couldn't do anything to save her, and at that moment, he didn't care that she was a dragon or a monster. To him, she was family, even calling her a mother, but Sylvia shut that down saying he already had one, and while Arthur was being teleported, he heard her final message reminding him about using power the right way. Not explaining that the world was cruel, but that was exactly why he needed to make a difference, step by step, not all at once. And after that, Arthur woke up in the middle of a massive forest, and as he started moving, he suddenly heard a girl screaming, instantly boosting his speed and jumping onto a tree like a ninja to scout, only to find bandits kidnapping a small elf girl and planning to sell her like she was merchandise. And that triggered his past trauma hard, remembering when his own family got attacked and hearing similar disgusting talk, and his first instinct was to wipe them all out immediately. But Sylvia's words stopped him from going full rage mode, so he calmed down and waited for the right moment instead of rushing in like an idiot. And as the bandits moved with the girl, Arthur followed silently like a shadow, waiting until night when they finally camped. And while thinking about whether to wait or attack, he overheard one of them talking creepy nonsense about the girl. And that was it. Patience gone. These guys signed their death certificates, but he still waited for darkness before making his move, meditating like a pro to prepare. And once ready, he noticed the bandits had forest hounds controlled by magic collars, basically enslaving animals like cowards. So he used that to his advantage by throwing rocks to create noise, luring one bandit away. And the moment the guy kicked a hound to shut it up like a complete jerk, Arthur appeared behind him and sliced him up instantly, and grabbed his weapon and took out another bandit just as quickly, but stamina started dropping because, yeah, he's still a kid. And when a third showed up, Arthur messed up slightly, only injuring him instead of killing, which alerted everyone. And now the leader stepped in, realizing Arthur was a mage and deciding not to kill him because selling a mage kid would make him rich. Yeah, these guys were truly garbage human beings. And the leader attacked, overpowering Arthur in raw strength, even catching his thrown knife and flipping the situation, lifting him up like a trophy and mocking him. But Arthur switched tactics, blasting a fireball at his knee and then driving the knife straight into his skull, ending him brutally, after which he finished the last injured bandit and rushed to the girl, who was blindfolded the entire time, telling her she was safe now, her name being Tasha. And when she noticed blood on him, she panicked like any normal kid would. So Arthur quickly covered up the bodies so she wouldn't see the massacre, and casually said the bandits had an accident. Yeah, sure, buddy. A very sharp accident. Then he handed her belongings back and tried to leave, but she grabbed him, terrified of being alone in a forest full of monsters. And when he realized she had no idea how far her home was, he accepted his fate and agreed to escort her, though he briefly considered using the hounds for travel before remembering he had zero control over them. But Tasha insisted on freeing them from the collars. And surprisingly, the wolves just walked away peacefully instead of attacking, proving they weren't the problem. Humans were. And the next day, they started traveling together, eating basic food that tasted like sadness but kept them alive. And while talking, she explained her life in the elf kingdom, mostly spending time with her servant and grandpa. And as they continued, Arthur slowly started regretting not getting rid of those wolves because they kept following them like unpaid bodyguards. And that night, he stayed on guard outside while Tasha begged him to come inside because she was scared, forcing him to compromise and guard from within. And before sleeping, she randomly asked if all humans were perverts with multiple wives, catching Arthur completely off guard, only to find out her grandpa filled her head with that nonsense. So he clarified that not all humans were like that, trying to defend humanity's reputation, which honestly wasn't looking great. And the next morning, they continued their journey, with Tasha getting more comfortable while still being completely useless in survival situations, needing to be carried across a river like a princess. And then suddenly, Arthur felt a sharp pain in his chest, realizing something was seriously wrong, while Tasha ran off to find herbs like that would magically fix everything. And while he leaned against a tree, one of the wolves appeared again, making him panic because he was too weak to fight, but instead of attacking it, dropped a dead boar in front of him and left like a silent thank you, leaving Arthur confused while Tasha assumed it was gratitude. And later that night, they ate roasted meat, which was way better than their previous meals. And just when things seemed fine, Tasha gave him some random mushrooms she found, which turned out to be a terrible idea because Arthur ended up destroying his own stomach and suffering badly, proving once again that trusting random forest food is a risky move. And after surviving that disaster, he was completely exhausted, while Tasha kept talking about her dreams of exploring other kingdoms, not realizing he had already mentally logged out. So she tucked him in and wished him goodnight like everything was normal, while Arthur just passed out, probably questioning all his life choices leading to this moment. The next morning, they got back on the road, but Arthur's chest pain decided to level up from annoying to straight up unbearable, and throbbing like his body was about to explode. And Tasha, feeling guilty for being completely useless in medical situations, apologized, while Arthur brushed it off like, yeah, totally fine, just casually dying inside. Then she randomly asked if she could call him Art, because she now considered him a friend. And that hit differently because for the first time in both his lives, someone actually saw him as a friend instead of a weapon or a threat, so he agreed, joking around and acting dramatic about cherishing their friendship, which only made her annoyed. And right when things were getting wholesome, Tasha spotted something familiar and dragged him over. And Arthur thought finally maybe his parents, but nope. Instead, it was a giant tree with a glowing portal inside like some fantasy checkpoint. And Tasha casually revealed this was the entrance to the elf village, inviting him in. And the moment Arthur stepped through, congratulations, instant betrayal vibes, because the guards surrounded him and put blades to his throat like he was public enemy number one. And Arthur looked at Tasha expecting backup, but she just stood there silent like she forgot how to speak, making Arthur think, wow, great, got played again. Trust issues back at 100? Because his past life was full of betrayals, and this felt exactly the same. And just as they were about to execute him, Tasha finally snapped out of whatever weird silence she was in and ordered them to stop, defending him and explaining he saved her life. But the guards still acted stupid. And just when things were about to go south again, an old man stepped in with authority. Virion, Tasha's grandfather and former king, basically the only one in the room with a functioning brain, and he ordered them to stand down, trusting Tasha's words and even apologizing to Arthur for the treatment. And that's when Arthur got hit with another surprise, because Tasha wasn't just some random girl, she was a princess this whole time and never bothered to mention it. Like, wow, thanks for the info. Could have saved a lot of stress. And right then her parents arrived, the king and queen, and she ran to them like a normal kid while Arthur stood there like the awkward extra, and the king immediately started acting like a racist NPC, demanding why a human was in his kingdom and ordering Arthur's execution again. But the soldiers didn't move because Virion's orders overruled him. After some back and forth with Tasha and Virion defending Arthur, the king reluctantly agreed to treat him as a guest instead of killing him, mostly because he didn't want to deal with his daughter throwing a tantrum. And with that crisis barely avoided, they headed to the castle while Virion hinted he wanted a private talk later, which made Arthur cautious because that old man radiated scary levels of power. But before he could think too much, Tasha dragged him around for a tour like nothing happened, showing him the elf kingdom, which looked completely different from human lands. But the racism was still strong because every elf stared at him like he was a walking disease, though no one dared say anything because now he had VIP status. And while Tasha treated him normally, Arthur couldn't stop thinking about why she stayed silent earlier when his life was on the line. And to make things worse, his chest pain kept getting stronger, like his body was counting down to something bad. And once they reached the castle, Tasha ordered everyone to treat him nicely before inviting him to play. But Arthur used his brain for once and suggested they first explain everything to her parents. So they all sat down for a proper discussion with tea and snacks, and her father introduced himself as Alduin, King of Elenoir, along with the Queen Miriel and Virion, while Arthur introduced himself as a simple boy from Sapine, acting humble even though he was anything but normal. And Alduin was surprised by how composed this kid was, then asked for the full story. So Arthur explained everything from getting separated from his family to finding Tasha kidnapped, and when he mentioned slave traders, Alduin got mad at humans. But Arthur clapped back saying, elves do the same, which shut him up real quick, and when asked how he saved her, Arthur casually dropped that he killed them all, making one guard lose his mind because apparently a child doing that was too much to process. But Virion shut him down instantly, and Alduin decided to believe Arthur. And with that settled, Arthur asked for help getting back home, which made Alduin annoyed again, because how dare a human ask for favors? But since Arthur saved his daughter, he had no choice but to agree. Though he revealed the portal to Sapien only opens every 7 years and Arthur just missed it, meaning he'd have to wait 5 years, which was not happening. So instead, Alduin decided to send soldiers to escort him back, clearly wanting him out as soon as possible. But since it was late, Arthur stayed the night, thanking them while his chest pain kept getting worse and Virion clearly noticed something was off. Later, Arthur got a room and tried to relax with a bath, but the pain kept intensifying like his body was falling apart, so he stepped out to the balcony for air, thinking about his parents and hoping they survived, when he spotted Tasha with her parents above, which made him miss his own family even more. And when Tasha noticed he looked sad, she came to talk, apologizing for her father's behavior, but Arthur understood because of the history between humans and elves, though deep down he worried his own parents might blame him for everything, blaming himself for failing to protect them, until Tasha grabbed his face and basically told him to stop overthinking, because if his parents were anything like hers, they'd just be happy he was alive. And while they were talking, the area lit up with glowing fireflies, giving Arthur a moment to reflect and realize he had been letting his past trauma mess with his judgment, even doubting Tasha earlier when she never meant to betray him. And suddenly he sensed something flying toward her and reacted instantly, catching it and powering up to strike back, only to realize it was just Virion testing him like a sneaky old man, claiming it was harmless but impressed by Arthur's reaction speed, confirming he really was strong, then casually suggesting a sparring match match because why not bully a kid for fun? Summoning a sword for Arthur and moving Tasha aside, and the fight started with Arthur going all in. But Virion was on a completely different level, dodging everything effortlessly and even breaking Arthur's sword with his bare hand, yet Arthur still managed to land a hit on his forehead. And just when things were heating up, Tasha stepped in and stopped the fight by literally pinching Virion like a misbehaving child, and Arthur admitted he was honored to fight someone that strong, which gave Virion the perfect excuse to drop his next bombshell, offering to take Arthur as his disciple, and Arthur was stunned, unsure what to say because his only concern was contacting his parents. Though before Arthur could respond, his chest pain spiked again, and Virion finally revealed the truth. Arthur had received a beast will, and if he didn't learn to control it, trapped in nightmares until Tasha woke him up after hearing him mumbling like a crazy person, telling him to get ready because Virion was already waiting. And as Arthur got dressed, Tasha asked if he was really going to stay and train here, but Arthur still hadn't decided because everything now depended on whether Virion could actually help him contact his family, and if he could, then staying might be the only option to survive. After getting dressed, Arthur and Tesha headed downstairs together, only to immediately overhear Alduin and Virion going at it like two stubborn bosses arguing over who owns the damn kingdom, because Alduin was absolutely losing his mind over the idea of letting a human kid stay in the elf kingdom, calling it a violation of centuries of tradition, while Virion just stood there completely unbothered. He'd told Arthur and Tesha to get in the carriage because they had somewhere important to go, cutting the argument short like a true no-nonsense legend. As the journey dragged on, Tesha eventually knocked out from boredom, leaving Arthur to casually ask Virion how much longer it would take. But this time, he straight up called him Grandpa, catching Virion off guard because, damn, this kid really speedran the family bonding arc. Though Virion didn't mind at all. In fact, he was low-key happy because Tesha finally had a friend. Since being the only princess meant every other kid either feared her or eventually betrayed her trust, eventually they reached their destination. And after waking Tesha up, they stepped out with Arthur wondering who the hell this person was that made even Virion travel this far. But Virion didn't wait around. He marched up and started yelling for Renia like he owned the place, only to get smacked in the face by the door swinging open, which was honestly deserved. And after recovering, he introduced Renia as a powerful diviner, basically a mage who could peek into past and future like some kind of magical stalker, and she invited them inside to get started, though Arthur was confused seeing nothing but a normal house and a random bucket of water like, bro, this is your setup, seriously. But Renia explained her ability and quickly realized Arthur wasn't normal at all. Parts of his past were blocked even from her, which already screamed main character energy. Though Arthur didn't care about that, he just wanted to contact his parents, so she told him to focus on them while she activated her magic. And soon enough, he saw Reynolds and Alice living in the city, barely holding it together, with Reynolds almost drinking himself into oblivion out of guilt before pulling himself together for his pregnant wife. And despite building a stable life, they were still broken inside thinking their son was dead, until suddenly, Arthur's voice reached them, telling them he was alive and safe in the Elf Kingdom, though stuck because of a condition in his body, promising to return once healed, making it clear none of it was their fault, which hit them like a truck, leaving both sides emotional as hell, because imagine thinking your kid is dead only for him to randomly call you through magic like it's some fantasy FaceTime. And after the connection ended, Arthur made up his mind right there, deciding he needed to get stronger no matter what. So he turned to Virion and accepted becoming his disciple, meaning now they just had to convince Alduin, who of course still hated the idea, but Tesha pulled the classic guilt card saying Arthur saved her life, which forced Alduin to reluctantly agree after Virion suggested announcing Arthur publicly as his disciple, making it impossible for anyone to oppose. And just like that, Arthur officially secured his spot in the royal palace. Afterward, Alduin even apologized, admitting Arthur seemed like a good kid despite being human, which honestly was a massive character development moment for a guy who was ready to execute him 5 minutes ago. And Tesha immediately dragged Arthur out to explore the town, showing him around like an excited tour guide until he accidentally bumped into some random noble brat named Faereth, who instantly started acting like a spoiled idiot, insulting Arthur for being human and acting like he owned the place, which honestly was hilarious because this kid had zero survival instincts, talking trash within punching distance. But when he started telling Tesha to ditch Arthur and hang out with him instead, Arthur decided to mess with him, pretending to respect him while butchering his name on purpose, triggering the kid so hard that he challenged Arthur to a duel over his fragile ego, which Arthur accepted because at this point, why not humble this clown? And the fight lasted about as long as expected, which is to say not even a full minute before Faereth got knocked out cold, proving once again that confidence without skill is just stupidity in disguise. skies. After that, Arthur and Tesha spent the day enjoying the city, eventually resting on a balcony where Arthur admitted his training with Virion was going to be absolute hell, like daily suffering type training, but he didn't care because strength was the only way to protect what mattered. And Tesha promised to keep up with him, refusing to be left behind, and just like that, time skipped forward several years. Yeah, with both of them training like maniacs under Virion, growing stronger and closer, though Tesha's competitive nature kept pushing them both to their limits, until one day Virion finally decided Arthur was ready for the next step, explaining how magic worked and how races had different affinities, with elves excelling in wind and humans having the flexibility to use all elements. Though Arthur's progress was being held back by the beast will inside him, which was causing the constant chest pain, and before he could advance further, he needed to stabilize it, so Virion decided it was time to awaken it fully, which should remove the pain and make him a proper beast tamer. Now things went completely out of control, with Arthur screaming in pure agony as a massive surge of power exploded from his body, blasting both Virion and Tesha away like they were nothing. And even though the awakening technically succeeded, Arthur collapsed immediately afterward like his body just rage quit, forcing them to carry him back to the castle, worried out of their minds. And when he finally woke up, Virion questioned what kind of beast will he had, because that reaction was insane. And Arthur finally revealed the truth, that it came from a dragon, which left Virion completely stunned, though it explained everything. And he immediately warned Arthur to keep that secret locked down unless he wanted the entire world hunting him, before dropping another surprise that Arthur would be able to return home in just 4 months due to a newly arranged cultural exchange reopening the portals, leaving Arthur shocked because his long-awaited return was suddenly much closer than expected. Arthur casually asked Virion whether Tesha had already been told about his departure, knowing full well she'd be absolutely wrecked when she found out he was leaving in just 4 months. And Virion confirmed that her parents were currently breaking the news to her. That night, Arthur lay in bed holding Sylvia's egg, trying to process the fact that his time with Tesha was basically on a countdown, when suddenly the egg started cracking like it had its own dramatic timing, and moments later, boom, a tiny dragon popped out, not looking cute enough to scam anyone into trusting it, and Arthur, being the genius he is, immediately picked it up like, yeah, this is safe, only for the little gremlin to bite his arm, because of course it did. But instead of a normal bite, a crest formed, linking their minds together so now he could feel the dragon's thoughts, which is both cool and slightly creepy. And since he was stuck raising this tiny menace, he named her Sylvie after Sylvia, then went right back to sleep like this was just another normal day in his life. The next morning, Tesha barged into his room ready to talk about his departure, only to find Sylvie chilling in bed next to him like she paid rent. And instead of having a serious conversation, she instantly got distracted playing with the dragon, while Arthur woke up, saw everything was fine. Later that day, they headed to training where Tesha tried way too hard to win Sylvie over. So now Sylvie was keeping her distance like, nah, I value my life. And the moment Virion saw a literal dragon sitting on Arthur's head, he almost had a heart attack because this man was not ready for that plot twist. But Arthur explained everything, including how Sylvie hatched after his beast will awakening, and worried this might cause problems. But Virion just waved it off, saying dragons were basically myths now, so nobody would suspect a thing. Just call it a weird pet and move on, which honestly was the most irresponsible yet practical advice ever. Then training began, and Virion decided to flex by transforming and demonstrating his beast will, disappearing mid-step like a ghost on steroids, leaving Arthur completely unable to track him because apparently this old man unlocked stealth mode with his Shadow Panther ability, controlling wind so perfectly that even sound just vanished, making him basically invisible. And Arthur immediately gave up because yeah, fighting that is just asking to get folded, and Virion admitted he was just showing off before starting real training. Over the next few days, Arthur improved like crazy, mastering his beast will, losing the chest pain, and even keeping up with Virion's speed while also enjoying his remaining time with Tesha, until one day he ran into that same annoying noble kid Faerith again. Except this time, Arthur didn't even recognize him, which absolutely destroyed Faerith's ego, leading to another duel that ended just as quickly as the first, with Faerith eating dirt again while his friends questioned their life choices, and only after Tesha reminded Arthur who he was did he go, oh yeah, that guy, then casually treated him like a friend, completely flipping the dynamic and leaving Faerith too confused to even be mad anymore. Things escalated when Faerith mentioned the upcoming cultural exchange and casually dropped that Tesha wouldn't be attending because she was too delicate, which triggered her instantly, and she straight up punched him into unconsciousness in public like a royal menace, forcing Arthur to grab her and run before things turned into a political incident. And once they were safe, Arthur started lecturing her about not punching people randomly, and Tesha fired back by calling him an old man before storming off crying because emotions were running high and neither of them knew how to handle it properly. That night, Arthur found her crying alone and decided to cheer her up by sneaking her out for a walk, which honestly could have ended horribly but somehow didn't. And as they sat under the night sky talking about random things, Tesha admitted she wished he could stay forever forever. While Arthur admitted he wished the same but couldn't abandon his family, and eventually she fell asleep mid-conversation. Finally, the day of departure arrived, and Virion gave Arthur a special compass so he could always find his way back, which was actually a rare, wholesome moment. But Tesha was nowhere to be seen because she couldn't handle saying goodbye until the last second when she came running, tripped like a disaster, and Arthur rushed to help her, leading to one final emotional goodbye where they hugged, both clearly not ready to let go but forced to anyway. Then Arthur stepped through the portal and arrived in Xyrus City, finally reuniting with his parents and meeting his little sister Alina, who was already a fan of him thanks to years of stories. And the reunion was wholesome, as Alice checked if he was okay after his illness, carefully hiding the truth about Sylvia and his dragon Will, instead making up a story about early awakening issues, because yeah, explaining dragon powers would probably cause a global panic, while Alina instantly fell in love with the tiny dragon like every normal human would. Then Reynolds, being Reynolds, immediately switched to battle mode, asking about Arthur's core stage, flexing his own dark orange core like a proud dad, only to nearly lose his mind when Arthur revealed he was already at light red stage, meaning this kid was dangerously close to surpassing him. And instead of processing that like a normal person, Reynolds challenged his own son to a spar right away, because apparently family bonding equals throwing hands. But before they could even start, the door burst open with Vincent Helsty and his wife Tabitha arriving, introducing themselves and their daughter Lilia, who instantly ignored everything and everyone to grab Sylvie like she found treasure, while Vincent joked that Arthur's manners clearly didn't come from Reynolds, which was absolutely accurate. And as the group moved outside for the spar, Vincent started panicking at the idea of his property getting destroyed, which was completely justified considering Reynolds was involved, while Arthur stood ready, proving once again that his peaceful reunion was about to turn into chaos real fast. As the sparring kicks off, Arthur and Reynolds start trading blows, and Reynolds can't help but feel impressed seeing how much stronger his son has gotten. After creating some distance, Reynolds decides to spice things up and literally sets his hand on fire, casually telling Arthur he can still back out if he's scared. In this world, every mage has an elemental affinity, basically their favorite flavor of destruction. Conjurers use it like it's second nature, while augmenters usually struggle, unless they reach a high level where they can finally stop being useless and actually use it properly. Reynolds clearly hit that level because once he boosts himself with fire, he becomes an absolute menace. Arthur realizes he can't keep holding back, so he goes all in, pumping mana into his arms and clashing again. This time, the fight actually looks balanced, but Reynolds still pushes him back because muscles don't lie. Now here's where things get unfair. Thanks to his past life experience and Virion's brutal training, Arthur didn't just learn fire magic early, he basically speedran it. Arthur channels mana again, but this time, lightning starts crackling around him like he just unlocked a premium upgrade. Reynolds is stunned because this kid just casually jumped into advanced magic like it's nothing. While holding lightning, he also manipulates water from the fountain behind Reynolds, launching a surprise attack. Reynolds blocks it, but at this point he's mentally done because his son is out here using multiple elements like he's built different. Instead of getting mad, he just pulls Arthur into a hug, proud as hell, asking where he even learned that insane move and what other broken abilities he's hiding. Arthur admits he only recently started using lightning and still sucks at controlling it. Right then, Elena rushes in, probably thinking someone died, while Vincent and Tabitha just stand there speechless because no normal kid fights like a walking disaster. Later that evening during dinner, Vincent keeps hyping Arthur up like he just found a legendary artifact. Reynolds casually drops that Arthur awakened his mana at 3 years old, and Vincent almost chokes because even geniuses usually take until 8. Reynolds laughs, remembering how Arthur literally blew up their house back then. Then Vincent suddenly suggests enrolling Arthur into Xyrus Academy, catching Reynolds completely off guard because that place is basically for rich elites and overpowered prodigies. Tabitha backs him up, even offering to pay the tuition because Arthur is clearly built for greatness. Alice hesitates, not wanting to accept more help, especially since Arthur is only 8 while the academy requires 10. But Vincent, already planning everything like a mastermind, says he knows the director personally and can easily pull strings to get Arthur in early. Before they go any further, Arthur steps in, reminding everyone that maybe they should ask him before deciding his entire future. He just got his family back today, and instead of celebrating, they're already planning to ship him off like a package. He excuses himself and walks off, only to almost get lost in the house because, yeah, still new here. Lilia shows up just in time to stop him from wandering into the basement like a lost NPC and guides him to the servants' break room. The staff greets her warmly, and they all recognize Arthur too. Lilia asks Maria for some duck, and Maria agrees but roasts her back, saying she's been gaining weight lately, which is wild coming from someone serving food. One maid explains that Lilia comes here to escape because her parents are constantly pressuring her to become a mage, pushing lessons nonstop. She wants it, sure, but not like this. Later that night, Arthur spends time with his parents, who are still overjoyed to have him back. He looks different now, but to them, he's still their son. They don't care if he becomes some overpowered legend or not. They just want him safe and happy. The next morning, Arthur wakes up and rushes downstairs because he's got visitors. The Twin Horn squad heard he was back and pulled up immediately. Arthur is happy to see them, but Angela is way too happy, grabbing him into a suffocating hug like she's trying to end him right there. After surviving that, he greets everyone. But Jasmine immediately starts touching him all over like she's scanning for damage. It looks weird as hell, but apparently she's just checking if he's injured, which honestly doesn't make it any less awkward. After making sure Arthur wasn't hurt, Jasmine immediately pulled him into a tight hug and apologized, clearly blaming herself for what happened back during the chaos when he got separated. Once things calmed down, the group finally sat together to catch up, and Arthur learned that the Twin Horns had been chilling in a far-off city called Escorting. A few days later, Arthur was back in his room, training his beast will like a man obsessed. During practice, he unlocked something insane. He could actually stop time. Not for long, just a few seconds, and every attempt drained him like his battery was trash. But still, that's a broken ability. Even he started wondering if all this suffering was worth it for a power he barely understood. But then he remembered why he was doing all this, protecting the people he cared about, and that was enough to keep him going. But right in the middle of all this deep motivation, reality hit him in the nose. Sylvie smelled absolutely disgusting. No hesitation, no mercy, he grabbed her and dragged her to a bath. Sylvie hated every second of it, probably plotting revenge. But Arthur wasn't about to let a stinky dragon roam around a luxury mansion like a sewer rat. After finishing Sylvie's forced spa treatment, Arthur was drying her off when his family walked in and decided it was his turn next. So his mom dragged him straight to a stylist who promised to turn him into a masterpiece. A few hours later, the result was barely anything. Just a slight trim, but everyone acted like he just got a legendary upgrade. Arthur, confused as hell, asked why everyone suddenly cared so much about his appearance, and Tabitha casually dropped the real reason. So, she wanted to take him to their auction house, and they couldn't have him walking in looking like a forest survivor. Since they were already in Xyrus City, she suggested a full tour, and Elena instantly jumped in, excited to tag along and spend time with her brother. The group spent the day hanging out, even messing around with ring toss near a statue, until some random idiots decided to throw a ring straight at Arthur's head and walk off like they owned the place. Arthur, understandably annoyed, asked Lilia what their problem was, and she explained those were Xyrus Academy students. Not long after, Arthur sensed something interesting coming from a nearby shop and walked over, only to learn it was a beast core store. He was shocked because in the Elf Kingdom that wasn't even a thing. Here, though, it was normal. Tabitha explained that beast cores could boost a mage's power, and if it contained a beast will, it could cost up to 100 gold coins. That amount was insane, enough to support his family for generations. She even offered to let him handle one later at the auction, but Arthur wasn't too interested since he already had Sylvia's core, which was basically top tier. Then Lilia jumped in, asking if she could get one too, and Tabitha shut that idea down instantly. Owning a beast core wouldn't magically turn her into a mage, and it was way too expensive anyway. They moved to a cafe for lunch, but Arthur could clearly see Lilia was still upset. It wasn't just about the core, she was frustrated, desperate even. Arthur was about to ask what was going on when he suddenly noticed she had vanished. Turns out she had already walked off into a shady alley, like a side character making bad decisions. Arthur followed and found her inside a magic shop, staring at a cheap beast core she could actually afford with her savings. He questioned her, asking if she was sure, because owning one didn't guarantee anything. But Lilia didn't care. She said she wouldn't know unless she tried. As she reached for it, Arthur grabbed her hand, trying to stop her. But she snapped back, saying he would never understand because everything came easy to him. Yeah, that hit deep. She stepped back in frustration and accidentally bumped into someone behind her. And, surprise, it was those same Academy clowns. She apologized, but their ego was too big to process basic human interaction. So they immediately started acting tough. With no one stopping them, the idiots decided their next move was to burn Arthur and Lilia because apparently that's normal behavior now. Lilia immediately hid behind Arthur while he sighed internally, knowing peace wasn't an option with these brain-dead idiots. Just as things were about to explode, Tabitha and Alice showed up, commanding everyone to drop their magic immediately. But, of course, the Academy kids weren't done embarrassing themselves, brushing her off and acting like she couldn't do anything, while even the shopkeeper came back just to beg her not to provoke them. Those Academy clowns kept acting tough, basically saying they could wipe the whole shop off the map if they felt like it. But Tabitha calmly warned them that even Academy students wouldn't be safe from consequences if they touched the Hellsty family's daughter. The moment their tiny brains processed that Lilia was a Hellsty, their confidence evaporated instantly. Back at the mansion, the whole situation was reported to Vincent, and the man was shocked hearing his daughter and Arthur nearly threw hands with Academy students. What really hit him was the realization that if Tabitha hadn't stepped in, Arthur might have gone full menace and ended those boys right there. Lilia apologized, blaming herself again, but Vincent shut that down, saying she did nothing wrong. But Lilia, already deep in her insecurity spiral, convinced she was a failure who couldn't even use magic. She snapped, yelled that she hated them, and ran off. Hours later, when dinner time came, Arthur went to call her but found her room empty. Thinking back, he realized this wasn't random. Ever since she was little, Vincent filled her head with stories about the academy, making it her dream. But the problem was she couldn't even enroll until her mana awakened. Watching Arthur casually dominate magic didn't help either. It just made her feel more useless. Eventually, Arthur found her hiding in the maid break room, alone with her thoughts. He wanted to apologize but hesitated, worried he might sound like a genius flexing on someone already struggling. Before he could say anything, Lilia apologized first, admitting she was jealous of him. She thought her father now cared more about Arthur because of his talent and blamed herself for being incompetent. Hearing that, Arthur didn't waste time. He grabbed her face and told her straight she wasn't a failure. He had seen her effort and her parents definitely saw it too. That finally broke the tension, and Lilia laughed, realizing how ridiculous she had been acting. She understood now that her father only wanted her to become a mage so she could be happy, not because she had to prove anything. So Arthur got straight to the point and asked if she truly wanted to use magic. When she said yes, he revealed he had a way to speed things up. Later that evening, Arthur casually informed her parents that Lilia had left for training, which instantly shocked them. They demanded answers, and Arthur explained he sent her somewhere safe to help awaken her magic. Of course, they were not happy about him making that decision alone, but he explained Lilia wanted it this way because if she talked to them first, her resolve might break. He then handed over a letter she wrote. In it, Lilia poured her heart out, admitting how worthless she felt without magic and promising to train no matter how long it took until she became strong. The man dropped to his knees, realizing he was the reason she felt this way, because he made her believe magic was everything. In truth, he never saw her as useless. Magic or not, she was still his daughter. Right after that emotional breakdown, Arthur told Lilia to come out, and everyone was shocked to see she had been hiding behind the door the entire time. Yeah, this whole thing was basically a setup. Arthur apologized for tricking them, saying he understood how terrifying it felt to think your child disappeared. But he wanted Lilia to see the truth with her own eyes, that her parents loved her no matter what. Vincent wasn't even mad. If anything, it opened his eyes to how wrong he had been. He apologized to Arthur's parents for trying to send him away so quickly, and then turned to Lilia, apologizing for pressuring her. He made it clear she didn't need the academy or magic to be happy. The choice was hers. Lilia appreciated it, but she still chose to go to the academy, not because of pressure, but because it was her dream to become a mage who brings happiness to others. Arthur nodded, and since she was serious, he decided to help her awaken her mana himself. And since he was already doing that, he figured Elena might as well join too. Both girls sat down, and Arthur guided them to relax, breathe slowly, and focus on the mana inside them, while Lilia struggled, starting to doubt herself again. Arthur reassured her to keep trying, then placed his hands on their backs, warning them they'd feel warmth as he activated their mana. Moments later, Lilia saw glowing lights, and just like that, her mana finally awakened. Not long after, Arthur and his family received an invitation to the Hellstee auction house. When they arrived, the place looked insanely massive and fancy. Alice started feeling out of place, like she accidentally walked into a royal event, but Tabitha calmed her down. The auction itself was a big deal, attracting both nobles and adventurers because Vincent gathered rare items like beast cores and exotic artifacts. Security was tight too, with Reynolds personally overseeing everything. Once the event started, Vincent took the stage and casually dropped the biggest reveal of the night. The royal family of Sapin was present. King Blaine, Queen Priscilla, along with Prince Curtis and Princess Catherine. The crowd went wild, and Arthur figured these rulers must actually be decent. With royalty present, security got even stricter, while Vincent kicked off the auction with the first item, a finely crafted blade infused with mana that could release electricity from its tip. The starting price was set at 50 gold coins, and immediately some rich guy raised it to 51 like money meant nothing. As the bidding war kept escalating, Vincent brought out a pair of masks, and for a second Arthur was interested, until he realized something way more important: Sylvie was missing. At first, he assumed she was messing around with Lilia or Elena, but when he spotted both of them knocked out asleep like they just gave up on life, he knew something was off and got up to search for her. Meanwhile, Sylvie was casually wandering the auction halls like she owned the place, until she got intercepted by the royal family's personal mage, a guy who clearly thought everything in the building was up for sale, including living creatures. Back on stage, Vincent revealed the next item, an Oranki lion cub, and the moment Prince Curtis saw it, he basically decided it was his new toy. The king didn't even hesitate and dropped a bid of 1,000 gold coins like it was nothing, instantly scaring off everyone else. The king stepped up to claim it, casually saying he might tame it himself but would let Curtis handle it since the kid wanted to prove something. While that was happening, Arthur finally tracked Sylvie down after hearing a scream echo through the halls. He rushed over and saw the royal mage staring at her like she was merchandise, and Arthur immediately recognized him as the king's escort. Not wanting unnecessary drama, Arthur calmly asked him to let her go, explaining she was his mana beast, not some auction item. The mage sighed like he was mildly inconvenienced, admitting he thought she was for sale. Sylvie instantly ran back to Arthur, but just when they were about to leave, the mage opened his mouth again and made things worse. He said he wanted Sylvie for himself and asked Arthur to hand her over, like he was ordering food. Arthur looked at him like he just said the dumbest thing possible and basically questioned if he had lost his mind. Instead of taking the hint, the mage decided to act tough, throwing flames at Arthur to scare him and flexing his title as a royal sorcerer. Arthur didn't even blink, just turned around and started walking away, which honestly hurt the mage's ego more than anything. So the genius decided to escalate and threatened Arthur's parents. He turned back and the aura coming off him was pure killing intent, the kind that makes grown men rethink their life choices. But he forgot one small detail. We're still inside a crowded auction house. His bloodlust exploded outward, shattering windows everywhere and crushing everyone without mana like they just got hit by a truck. Vincent dropped instantly while others struggled to breathe. The king managed to stay standing, and his guards immediately surrounded him, assuming some enemy attack was happening. The king stayed calm, telling them to protect the guests instead, while Arthur quickly realized he had just turned the whole place into chaos. He pulled his aura back, but the damage was already done. Panic spread like wildfire. People had no idea what was happening, and Reynolds jumped in to take control, ordering a full evacuation while trying to clean up the mess. After everything settled and people were safe, the king called Reynolds for a private talk and questioned why the culprit hadn't been captured. Reynolds apologized, ready to accept whatever punishment came next. But before things got worse, the same mage stepped in, pretending to be reasonable, saying no one died, so maybe they should chill a bit. Of course, this wasn't kindness. He just didn't want to lose his chance to steal Sylvie. The king then introduced him properly as Sebastian, his trusted royal mage who had saved his life multiple times. Basically a powerful guy with an even bigger ego. So when Sebastian brought up Sylvie again, the king turned to Reynolds and casually asked if they could hand her over as a gesture of gratitude. Arthur tried to speak, but his mom immediately shut him down, reminding him this was a king, not some random guy. Reynolds stepped in instead, explaining he had no authority over Sylvie since Arthur obtained her himself. The king then directly asked Arthur, and Arthur didn't hesitate. He straight up refused because Sylvie wasn't something you trade like an item. The king tried to sweeten the deal by offering the lion cub in exchange, claiming it was more valuable, but Arthur rejected that too, without blinking. At this point, the king started getting annoyed, reminding Arthur he shouldn't have to repeat himself. He made one last demand, but Arthur had enough. He stood up and asked the king something that hit way too close: if he would sell his own children. That question stunned the king into silence, but Arthur kept going, reminding him he had already refused multiple times and some things simply aren't for sale. He flipped the situation, asking how the king would react if someone tried to buy his kids. That was the final straw. The guards rushed in to attack Arthur for disrespect, but he knocked them out instantly like they were training dummies. Sebastian lost his patience completely, calling them useless and deciding to kill Arthur himself. He cast a spell, but Arthur activated his broken ability and froze time. Everything stopped except Sebastian, a sim who looked around confused like his brain couldn't keep up. Arthur calmly told him no one could hear or help him now, then walked up slowly while Sebastian panicked, still trying to act tough. Without wasting time, Arthur snapped his leg like it was nothing. Sebastian screamed for help, but Arthur told him this was his reality now and warned him to know his place and think twice before threatening people. Moments later, time resumed, and Arthur immediately collapsed from exhaustion because, yeah, that ability was no joke. When he woke up later in his bed with a massive headache, he realized he pushed himself way too far. Freezing time for even a few seconds nearly destroyed him. Alice came in, relieved he was finally awake, and filled him in on what happened after he passed out. Once he was stable, she took him out to town to clear his mind. While walking, Arthur spotted a hairpin that would suit Elena perfectly, but since he was broke like always, Alice bought it for him and suggested he give it to her as a gift. She even offered to buy something for him too, but Arthur hesitated, thinking maybe spending money wasn't the best idea right now, especially since there was a real chance Reynolds just lost his job after that whole disaster. Alice quickly shut down Arthur's worries about money, revealing she actually had a job too, which caught him completely off guard because apparently his mom had been quietly making luxury items for nobles and stacking cash like a hidden boss. She was earning enough that their family wasn't struggling at all, so Arthur could stop acting broke for once. But the moment they got home, the mood shifted instantly. From the living room, they overheard Reynolds in a heated conversation, firmly saying his silence wasn't for sale after what happened to his son. Arthur stepped in to see what was going on, and Reynolds immediately relaxed, seeing him alive and walking like the man had been holding his breath this whole time. The guest present recognized Arthur as the kid from yesterday's chaos and invited him over, handing him a pouch of gold sent by the king as an apology, casually calling the whole situation a minor incident. Arthur almost laughed internally because getting attacked by royal guards and a psycho mage didn't feel minor at all, but he kept it polite and thanked the man anyway. The guy, clearly pleased, mentioned the guards responsible had already been fired, since even the king wasn't crazy enough to justify attacking a child over a rejected request. Reynolds wasn't impressed though, thinking getting fired was way too light for attempted murder, but the man clapped back, reminding him Arthur had disrespected the king first, and the king had already shown mercy by not punishing Reynolds for failing his duty. Before Reynolds could argue further, Arthur stepped in and diffused the situation, and he admitted it was his own fault for speaking recklessly. Then he casually asked about Sebastian, the same clown whose leg he broke. The man explained Sebastian had been removed from his position and was now recovering in the hospital. According to the official story, Sebastian's own magic must have backfired like an idiot move and shattered his leg instead. The man also warned Arthur to be careful with his words around authority figures, because not everyone would be as forgiving as the king. After accepting the apology, the man left, and Reynolds immediately handed the entire pouch of gold to Arthur. Arthur hesitated, but Reynolds insisted, saying Arthur was the one who faced the real danger and would need money for whatever he planned next. That moment hit Arthur hard. He was just a powerless kid getting pushed around by people with status. So the very next morning, he headed straight to Xyrus Magic Academy with a plan in mind. But things got weird instantly. He noticed an owl watching him, and when it flew off, he followed it like a curious idiot, only to realize too late it was bait. The trap led him to an old woman waiting calmly, and yeah, this wasn't just any grandma. She was the director of Xyrus Academy, one of the most powerful figures around. Vincent had clearly been hyping Arthur up to her, but she wasn't the type to trust gossip, so she decided to test him herself. First, she tried to crush him with her overwhelming magical pressure, basically flexing her power. But Arthur held his ground, even though he could feel just how terrifying she actually was. Instead of backing down, he decided to show what he could do. He wrapped himself in wind magic, lifted rocks with earth magic, and launched them at her like a combo attack, only for her to casually block everything with one hand like she was bored. Not stopping there, Arthur tried a sneak attack with flaming knives from behind, but she instantly wiped those out too like they were nothing. At this point, Arthur's frustration started showing, and he rushed her directly, which was honestly a dumb move, and she punished it immediately by blasting him back with a gust of wind. He crashed hard, realizing the obvious truth. He wasn't beating her, not even close. But instead of mocking him, she actually praised his talent while pointing out his biggest flaw, his overconfidence. To really show the gap between them, she gave him one final test: survive her next attack without passing out. Raising her arm, she unleashed a brutal wave of sound magic that shattered nearby rocks and nearly destroyed Arthur's senses. That alone impressed her enough to consider taking him as her personal student. But Arthur wasn't about to accept without conditions. He straight up told her he came to her because she had the power to protect his family, and if she guaranteed their safety, he would join the academy under her. The director was surprised by his boldness, but she couldn't deny his value. Just as she was about to agree, Arthur dropped another condition. He wouldn't enroll until he reached the proper age, meaning a 3-year delay. She questioned his logic, but Arthur made it clear he wanted to live fully, travel the world, and become an adventurer before settling down. Seeing his determination, she knew arguing was pointless, and told him to get his parents' approval first. If they agreed, she would accept everything. Feeling confident, Arthur went home and announced his plan, only for Alice to instantly shut it down without hesitation. Reynolds tried to calm things down and asked her to at least listen, but she wasn't having it. After finally getting her son back, there was no way she was letting him leave again. Reynolds suggested a compromise. Maybe Arthur could travel with a guardian, but even that wasn't enough to change her mind. Arthur stepped in and calmed Alice down, promising he wouldn't disappear for years again like last time. He explained his plan properly this time, saying his adventures would be short trips, and he'd come back home every few months instead of vanishing like a ghost. That finally loosened Alice up a bit. He wanted real experience, not just practice swings in the backyard. Alice still wasn't fully convinced, but she made him promise not to hide anything from her. Arthur agreed, acting all honest, even though deep down he knew he'd still be keeping plenty of secrets. Reynolds, meanwhile, kept pushing the idea of giving Arthur a guardian, because sending a kid alone into danger is just asking for disaster. So he reached out to the Twin Horns crew, asking if anyone could take the role, even though he had no real money to offer. But they didn't care about payment. They were friends, not mercenaries. Everyone was ready to help, except Adam. That guy immediately refused, saying babysitting Arthur sounded like a death sentence, because he was pretty sure Arthur might actually kill him one day. The others didn't even argue. They straight up agreed Adam was annoying enough to get himself killed. Then, out of nowhere, Jasmine volunteered, shocking everyone because she hated protection jobs more than anyone. But she said if it was for Arthur, she'd do it. And just like that, decision made. Jasmine was strong, an augmenter at the light orange stage, and she already got along well with Arthur, so she was basically the perfect choice. With that settled, Arthur asked Reynolds to take him to the auction house because he still needed a proper weapon, and Reynolds arranged it through Vincent. The next day, Arthur met Vincent and got access to his massive collection of swords. Sounds great, right? Except it turned into a nightmare. There were too many options, and none of them felt right. By dinner time, Arthur was still missing, and Alice started worrying like any normal mom would. Meanwhile, Arthur was losing his mind. Most swords were built for augmenters with bigger bodies. Then Sylvie randomly led him to what looked like a useless stick on the ground. Arthur didn't get it at first, but picked it up anyway, only to realize it was way heavier than it looked and strangely unbalanced, like something was hidden inside. Curious, he tried pulling on it while channeling mana, and suddenly glowing letters appeared as a blade slid out. Turns out this random stick was actually a sword in disguise. Arthur tested it, but it felt too heavy at first. Still, the quality was insane. He sliced a barrel in half like it was nothing. Then, the sword suddenly zapped his hand, making him drop it like an idiot. When he picked it up again, everything changed. The balance was perfect. The size fit him exactly. That caught his full attention because even in his past life as a king, none of his swords had ever felt this perfectly matched. He tested it again and destroyed another barrel effortlessly. At that moment, Vincent and Reynolds walked in, wondering why Arthur was taking forever while dinner was getting cold. They asked if he found a weapon yet, and instead of revealing the secret blade, Arthur casually picked a random sword and said that was his choice. Reynolds tested it and immediately knew it was nothing special, but since Arthur insisted, Vincent let him take it. Then Vincent noticed the staff on Arthur's side and questioned it. Arthur quickly made up a story, saying it was just some old stick he found and wanted to use for practice. Jameson explained some old man had dumped it there, saying it was worthless. And even after appraisers checked it, they all said the same thing. Just a regular staff. Yeah, clearly they were blind. Arthur begged to keep it, and Vincent agreed since it had no value to him anyway. Over the next few weeks, Arthur spent time with everyone while preparing for his journey, and before he even realized it, his 9th birthday arrived. A small celebration was held, and then came the gifts. Alice gave him a glove embedded with healing gems. Vincent gave him a pair of rings, one of which would alert Alice if Arthur's mana dropped dangerously low. Then Adam, surprisingly useful for once, gave him a magic scroll that could send voice messages back home. Arthur genuinely appreciated everything, especially knowing he'd be leaving the next day. Alice, holding back her emotions, just told him to stay safe because she didn't care about power or wealth. That night, Arthur packed everything, his heart heavy but his mind set. If he wanted to protect them, he needed to get stronger. The next morning, the final goodbye hit. Reynolds warned him not to get overconfident and reminded him they'd always be supporting him no matter what. Arthur said his goodbyes and stepped outside, where Jasmine was already waiting like a bodyguard on duty. And just like that, his journey officially began. First stop, the Adventurers Guild in Xyrus, where he signed up for the rank assessment test. He didn't fully understand the process yet, but a staff member guided him through it. Not wanting unwanted attention or enemies targeting his family, Arthur decided to wear a mask during his missions. The two were brought in front of the guild leader, Caspian Bladethart, a man who looked like he had seen way too many idiots try and fail in this place. Caspian explained that normally Arthur would have to go through a boring written exam and a monocore evaluation first, but since Jasmine was vouching for him and her family had strong ties, he decided to skip all that hassle. On top of that, since Arthur was hiding his identity, Caspian didn't care about his real name and told him to pick an alias. Arthur, not exactly creative under pressure, went with note, because why not sound mysterious and edgy at the same time? With that sorted, Caspian took them straight to the arena for the real test. On the way, Arthur asked Jasmine why the guildmaster was being so generous, and she clarified it wasn't about her, it was her father's influence doing all the heavy lifting, basically family connections saving the day again. Once they reached the arena, the doors opened to an ongoing match. A young water mage named Diane was mid-exam, throwing a powerful water attack at her instructor, who casually blocked it like it was a joke and disappeared in steam. Before she could even react, he popped up behind her and tapped her head, ending the match instantly. He praised her speed but roasted her defense, giving her a C rank. Next up was Elijah Knight, but before he could even move, the instructors paused, had a quick discussion, and just handed him a B rank without testing him at all. Everyone watching, including Arthur, was confused as hell, but no one dared question it because clearly some shady connections were involved. Then came Lucas twice, and this guy walked in like he owned the entire building. His attitude alone was enough to make people want to punch him, but unfortunately his talent backed it up. At just 11, he had already reached the light orange stage, which was ridiculous. Arthur noticed his pointed ears and figured he was part elf. The moment the test started, Lucas summoned a flaming guardian like he was trying to show off, but the instructor destroyed it instantly with earth magic. Not satisfied, Lucas climbed a rock pillar and unleashed a massive firestorm, but the idiot couldn't even control it and nearly burned himself alive. The instructor had to step in and save him from his own stupidity. Afterwards, she acknowledged his power, but called out his lack of control. Lucas, instead of learning anything, got mad and tried to attack her again like a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum. Before things got worse, Arthur stepped in and deflected the attack, saving her from unnecessary drama. At that point, the instructor realized Lucas wasn't just arrogant. He was a walking problem, so she gave him a B rank, made it clear his attitude was trash. Finally, it was Arthur's turn. He stepped forward and decided to stop playing around. The moment he released his aura, the instructor immediately got serious. But before the fight could begin, Caspian stepped in and said he would handle Arthur's test personally. The instructor questioned if that was overkill, since Caspian was a double A-class adventurer, basically way above Arthur's level. But Caspian brushed it off, saying it would just be a light spar. Arthur didn't expect to face someone that strong right away, but instead of backing down, he got excited. After the match, Arthur officially passed and was registered as a B-rank adventurer, jumping straight into a rank most people struggled years to reach. Meanwhile, the instructors later questioned Caspian about what was going on because suddenly too many kids were getting B ranks like it was a giveaway event. Caspian explained that months ago there had been a quiet cultural exchange bringing in talented kids from other races, which explained people like Lucas. His half-elf identity hinted at a complicated background, possibly even involving slavery, though his family name still carried influence. As for Elijah, no one knew much, except that he had powerful backing from the Dwarf Kingdom, which is why he skipped the test entirely. Basically, politics were running the show behind the scenes. When it came to Arthur, even Caspian admitted he had no idea who the kid really was. All he knew was Arthur wasn't tied to any kingdom, yet had insane skill and moved like a trained master with a sword. Add Jasmine's connection, and it was obvious this kid wasn't normal. Caspian was impressed, but still confident he was stronger for now. As Arthur and Jasmine left the guild, Arthur had a realization hit him hard. He had been so focused on mastering magic that his sword skills had started slipping, which was a big problem considering his past life experience. Right then, he accidentally bumped into Elijah. After apologizing, Elijah warned him that jumping into other people's fights was dangerous and could make enemies, though he admitted he would have done the same thing. Their conversation was interrupted by Lucas, who just couldn't mind his own business. Arthur immediately told him to get lost, but Lucas grabbed his collar trying to start something. Luckily for Arthur, they were all B rank now and surrounded by other adventurers, so Lucas couldn't act freely without consequences. After a tense moment, Lucas backed off and walked away like the loudmouth he was. Jasmine then told Arthur it was time to move, and she had already picked their first destination. She led him through a gate that opened into a massive open field known as the Beast Pasture Plains. The view was beautiful, peaceful even, but Arthur immediately felt it was too calm, like something was missing. Jasmine explained this area was mainly for beginners to train and gather resources, basically the tutorial zone. But then she dropped the real plan. This wasn't their actual destination. As he was still processing that reality check, a loud crash suddenly echoed through the forest, and seconds later, chaos arrived. A massive wild boar came bursting out of the trees like a nightmare on legs, completely enraged and already in the middle of slaughter mode. It charged straight through nearby adventurers and straight up devoured one of them like it was lunch, proving instantly this wasn't some harmless beast from the beginner zone. Jasmine didn't waste a second, grabbing Arthur and telling him to run because a monster like that had no business being here. Something had clearly gone very wrong. After creating some distance, they came across a destroyed carriage sitting in the middle of the plains. Jasmine quickly figured out what happened. Some genius-level idiots probably tried to capture the beast alive for transport, and surprise, it broke free and turned everything into a disaster. Before they could think any further, the boar locked onto them and charged again. They barely dodged in time, and then things got even worse when it tried attacking with its long, disgusting tongue, because apparently this monster wasn't done being cursed. The situation escalated fast, and Jasmine made the call, telling Arthur to get out while she handled it. She rushed in, boosting her speed with wind magic and striking the beast head-on. It charged straight at her while she was midair near a tree, almost crushing her completely. And that's when Arthur jumped in, catching her before she could hit the ground. She thanked him, but there was no time for emotions because a bunch of rookie adventurers were still about to get turned into meat. Jasmine immediately got back up and moved to protect them. Arthur felt the urge to jump in again, but this time he stopped himself. His past life instincts kicked in, reminding him not to act stupid again. He had already overestimated himself once today, and he wasn't about to repeat that mistake. So instead, he waited, watching carefully for the right moment. When the boar fully focused on Jasmine and prepared to charge, Arthur made his move. He dashed forward, coated his sword in flames, and struck with perfect timing, cutting the beast down before it could do any more damage. Thanks to that clean execution, no one else got hurt. But while everyone else was relieved, Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that she had failed. She was supposed to be his guardian. He ended up saving her instead. That hit her pride hard. Her story wasn't simple either. She had become an adventurer to escape her own family, the Flamesworths, a bloodline obsessed with fire magic. For generations, they produced powerful fire users. When her abilities awakened and it turned out she could only use wind magic instead of fire, her family immediately turned on her, calling her a disgrace like she had committed some crime. Hearing that, Arthur couldn't hold back and straight up called her family's mindset complete nonsense. The way he said it was so heated that Jasmine actually burst out laughing, apologizing right after because she wasn't expecting him to react like that. Arthur usually kept his cool, but this hit a personal nerve. In his past life, he had been treated as worthless too, so he understood exactly what she went through. Still, Jasmine admitted that if her family hadn't rejected her, she would have never met the twin horns. Back then, she struggled with teamwork and trusting others, acting like a lone wolf who couldn't rely on anyone. But over time, her teammates changed her, helping her grow and learn what real strength looked like. Even now, they still called her out when she messed up. Arthur wasn't sure if someone like him could truly change, but when he thought about everything since his rebirth, the people he met, the bonds he built, he realized he wasn't the same person anymore. For their sake, he decided he would keep pushing forward, becoming stronger and better, not just for himself, but to protect everyone he cared about.